This meeting is being recorded.
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing tonight? We'll begin our program in just a couple of moments. If you could put yourselves on mute, we greatly appreciate it. If you like, in the chat, you can share where you're from. I know we have a lot of Rhode Islanders, but I believe we have some people who are not local, and it'd be great to know where people are visiting us from.
Florida.
Florida, cool. Very cool. I hope you're having nice weather down in Florida.
Yeah, not too bad. It's going to be humid later in the week, though. So. But it's been really comfortable up until now.
There's that. We don't really get into our humidity until like July here. At least hopefully, fingers crossed. Just a reminder for folks, this program is being recorded, so if you like being on video, you can keep your video on. If not, you can turn the video off. Also, for the new folks who are joining us, welcome. We ask that you put yourselves on mute. Thank you. And we'll get started with our program. Tonight is the last letters program of the season, so thank you all for attending. And it's a very, very, very interesting letter. There's thievery, there's lies. Very, very interesting. And I just wanted to give a big thanks to the Blackstone Heritage Quarter for allowing us to use their Zoom link for our lecture series, because without them, this would not be possible. Thank you. Would you like to take it away, John?
Oh, I suppose so. Hi, everybody. This is the last one that we're doing this year. I hope if you've been to some of the others, I hope you've enjoyed them. This one's going to be interesting. This is not so much a letter of Roger's, but it is Roger's handwriting. It is, at least part of it is Roger's handwriting. This is what many people call the town deed for Providence. It is not a deed. It is, the real name for it is the town evidence. Something that people have to understand is that our ideas of land ownership and things like that, where a person can own an individual piece of property, are something that came later in the 17th century. At this point, the English are still under basically the old feudal system, where entities own land. If you were in England, if you were in England, you'd be underneath a lord or a knight or something like that. Very few people actually owned their own land. You worked for the land, and you went along and did what you were told. When the English came over here, things were held pretty much in common. And this town evidence is an agreement in between Roger Williams and the leaders of the Narragansett for a parcel of property that these English could live on. And in return for that, there would be other things that Roger would do for them. So I'm going to start right now by just putting up a picture of what we're talking about. Sparkle, tell me when it's up. Okay. This is the town evidence. And of course, if you can read Secretary Hand, you'll notice a lot of things going on in here. You've got the signature of Canonicus, the chief sachem of the Narragansett here. It's the shape of a bow. You get the signature of Miantonomi here in the shape of an arrow. They are the two top leaders of the Narragansett tribe. You have the signature of Yotash and the signature of Assawamset over here. There is a small paragraph after all the signatures. I don't know how many people have actually done legal work or things like that, but you know, when you sign a contract, the signatures go at the very bottom, and anything after that is not holding and binding. But I wanted to show you a nice picture of this. It's not easy to read because a lot of this document has been lost. It's been folded. It's been crumpled. It's been stashed away. Pieces of it here are missing, you can tell. But we do have a transcript of this, and that's what I'm going to be sharing next. This is a line-for-line transcription of what is in this document. Parts of it are missing up here in the top left corner, but luckily we happen to have a transcription of what was there before it went missing. Now, here are the words. At Narragansett, the 24th of the first month, commonly called March, in the second year of our plantation or planting at Pawtuxet or Providence. Memorandum, that we, Canonicus and Miantonomi, the two chief sachems of Narragansett, having 2 years since sold unto Roger Williams the land and meadows upon the two fresh rivers called Pawtuxet and Pawtuxet, do now by these presents establish and confirm the bounds of those lands from the rivers and fields of Pawtuxet, the great hill of Nutaconquenet on the northwest, and the town of Mashpog on the west. In witness whereof we have hereunto set our hands, and we have the mark of Canonicus, the mark of Miantonomi, the mark of Yotash, and the mark of Assawamset. Now, at the very bottom, underneath the signatures, there's a small paragraph. Starts out with MD, which is short for memorandum, 3rd month, 9th day. This was all again confirmed by Miantonomi. He acknowledged this, his act, and hand upon the streams of Pawtuxet and Pawtuxet, without limits, we might have for use of our cattle. Witness hereof, Roger Williams and Benedict Arnold. So what do these bounds look like? Go back up here. A minute. Here, go back to this. So the bounds of the land, what do they look like? Up at the north, we have Pawtuxet, generally marked by the falls at the river. Pawtuxet place name basically means where a freshwater river goes over a waterfall into salt water. Out to the hill at Nutaconquenet on the northwest, and then down the extent of this black line to the town at Mashpog in the west. Now, if you make a straight line and extend it, it goes all the way down to Pawtuxet. These are all wonderful natural features to use as landmarks and as bounds for the colony. You have the old falls at Pawtuxet. If you were near there, you would hear them. It's very easy. It's a nice, easy landmark that you can see. The top of Newtoconkinut Hill. If you're standing there looking east and you extend your left hand, it goes out towards the falls at Pawtuxet. And if you extend your right hand, it goes to Pawtuxet. It's a great expanse of land that if you're at the top of that hill, that's this big wedge shape that you see right here. Newtoconkinut Hill, your left hand goes to Pawtuxet, your right hand goes to Pawtuxet. Now, Roger Williams made this agreement with the Narragansett. We're not going to go into the Roger Williams story about how he got kicked out of Massachusetts, got kicked out of East Providence, and came over here and made the deal for the land. But he did make a deal for the land. He later said there was no amount of money that could have purchased Rhode Island. It was purchased for the love that the Narragansett and Roger Williams had for each other. Basically, Roger is making an agreement that he's going to live as neighbors with these people. When they need something from him, they'll give it to him. He'll give it to them. If they need a letter translated, if they need a message sent to the other English, he'll be a translator and an advocate for them. If they need some English trade goods, he'll give it to them. It's what part of being a neighbor means. If your neighbor needs something, you give it to them. And that's what Roger was. He was a middleman, and they plunked him down right in the middle at a major resource spot. With the Great Salt Cove and everything else, Roger's where all the roads come together. Roger's where everything comes together. And they gave this to him. There was no amount of money specified in that the land evidence or that deed. There was no amount of money transferred, and it doesn't say that it'd be the bounds for this. This is just marking out the outline of what was given to Roger and the people that wanted to come with him. This is going to be where the English live and where they can be taken care of. A lot of people came to Providence. And in 1638, there was a major controversy that lasted for months in the town of Providence. Had to do with Jane and Joshua Verron. Joshua Verron basically came down here because his wife Jane and his mother-in-law, the widow Reeve, were followers of Roger. So Jane dragged her husband with her, and they came down to this new settlement. Joshua Verron was a rope maker. They lived next door to the Williamses. The dogs are outside barking. I love it. The controversy came when Jane Verron ended up spending too much time over Roger Williams' house, going to Roger Williams' version of church services. Joshua did not like this, and also he felt that he was being neglected by his wife. So to correct this behavior, he beat her. Roger Williams writes in a letter to John Winthrop, he beat her and endangered her life. Now, in the 17th century, it was okay to physically correct your spouse or your children as long as it did not endanger their lives. You couldn't permanently harm them. You couldn't harm them. It's a correction. Now, Joshua Verron is beating his wife so badly, it's putting her in danger of life. So the town got together to decide what to do. There were two factions in this town. One of them felt that Joshua Verron was right for what he's doing because the wife must submit to her husband's will. That's in the Bible. It says that. The other felt that Jane Verron had as much right to determine the course of her soul as any other individual person could. One of the people that spoke out against Jane Verron was a guy by the name of William Harris and William Arnold. They got really upset with what was going on. The town voted on what to do about Joshua Verron. they decided to disenfranchise him, which is one of the most severe punishments they could give him. They took away his right to vote on what's happening in the town. They offered to get Jane Veron a new husband. But Joshua Veron decided to literally tie his wife up in ropes and drag her back up to Salem. This split that happened in this community at Providence, with Arnold and Carpenter getting really upset, they actually broke away a couple of months later and went to the southern edge of this large triangle that I showed you and started the town of Pawtuxet. They were so upset with Roger that they wanted to run things their own way that they tried to submit themselves to the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Now, this is kind of really important because Massachusetts Bay Colony wanted someplace on Narragansett Bay. They wanted a place on Narragansett Bay because Massachusetts Bay to the southern colonies and the money colonies is 7 to 10 days. From Narragansett Bay to those very same colonies is 3 to 4 days. Connecticut wanted places in Narragansett Bay. They were landlocked. But now Pawtuxet is trying to submit itself to the Massachusetts Bay. Well, leadership in the town started popping up. There's a new town that starts up just south of Pawtuxet, but it didn't start off right away. In 1641, a guy by the name of Samuel Gorton gets kicked out of Plymouth, goes to Portsmouth, and is involved in a controversial court case there, where he ends up, his maid was accused of beating another woman. So instead of sending his maid to court, Samuel Gorton went to court and called the justices just asses and jackanapes, basically making fun of them. Those are some pretty strong insults back in the day. And they tossed him out of Portsmouth. He tried to go to Providence. And when he realized how Providence made decisions by the majority vote of the people there, he basically said, I'm as good a person to decide my own future as anybody else. I'm not going to listen to what they say. And he went down to Pawtuxet on the southern side of the river. Now, Arnold and those people were on the northern side of the Pawtuxet River. Gorton goes to the southern side of the river and gets into a dispute with Arnold and Harris and the others that are there about cattle grazing rights, and it turns into a gunfight. We're in the Wild West now, cattle grazing and gun battles. So Gorton takes his people with him, and he goes down to a place called Shawmut, Warwick Neck. He ends up getting land from Miantonomi. Canonicus had passed at this point, and Miantonomi is the chief sachem of the Narragansett. He makes a deal with Miantonomi for the land at Shawmut. Well, Harris and Arnold and the people of Pawtuxet take up. There was one group of Indians living near Shawmut, and the leader of them was Pummel. He was an under chief, if you would, and he starts complaining that they sold the land without his permission. He gets in with the people at Pawtuxet, and Massachusetts actually sends troops down to Shawmut. And there's a week-long gun battle with Sam Gorton and his supporters against the forces from Massachusetts. It only ends when the people of Warwick or Shawmut run out of ammunition. Sam Gorton and the other leaders of the colony are arrested, dragged up to Boston. And Sam Gorton writes to the commissioner of the colonies, the Earl of Warwick, and complains that Massachusetts Bay has no jurisdiction over him, that he is not subject to Massachusetts Bay, that he is a subject of the king and demands the king's justice. Massachusetts Bay is forced to restore Sam Gorton to his lands, compensate him for any losses that he has had. Needless to say, the people of Pawtuxet and the people down in this newly renamed place, the people of Warwick, are not getting along. There's a new colony. You've got Portsmouth, you've got Newport. You've got Warwick, you've got Pawtuxet, and you've got Providence. Pawtuxet is trying to join Massachusetts Bay. Warwick is standing there by itself with the people that are so different than any of the English settlers here that the Native Americans actually call them by a different name. The Narragansett basically called most of the English people coatmen because they wore coats. The people that are living in Warwick, they call the Gortonites. They got along with them better. This controversy is going on for years. The leadership of the colony keeps changing. And at one point, William Arnold is in charge of everything, and he takes and secures all the special documents and ends up losing the town evidence for Providence. He lost it. Can't find it. In 1658, well, I'll show you what happened. Let's go here. We're going to shrink this down a little bit so people can see everything. Okay. What happened is in 1658, basically the 7th of the 12th month in 1658, basically February 7th, 1659, at our town, William Arnold of Pawtuxet came into this present court and did acknowledge that those two copies, to wit, William Harris and Thomas Olney's, which hath these words on them as followeth, are the true words and the writing called the Town Evidence of Providence. Here is what is officially entered into the town records. Here is that line by line transcription that we did earlier, and a true copy of the town evidence that they submitted in 1658, which reads very much the same at Narragansett's 24th of the first month, etc., until you get down to here. The great hill of Newtoconkanut on the northwest and the town of Mashpog on the west, which is the very close to the very last lines on the original deed. Then there's a whole nother paragraph here. As also, in consideration for the many kindnesses and services he hath continually done for us, both with our friends of Massachusetts, as also at Canonicus and Appom or Plymouth, we do freely give unto him all that land, from those rivers reaching to Pawtuxet River, as also the grasses and meadows upon Pawtuxet River. And then we're back to the original. In witness thereof, we have hereunto set our hands in the presence of Canonicus, Miantonomi, Yotash, and Asatomsamet. The official transcription added a huge piece of land for Pawtuxet. A huge piece of land. How big, you may ask? Well, let's see. Here we are at the top of Newtoconkanut Hill. Mashpog Pond. The black line is what's mentioned in the deed from Pawtucket to Newtoconkanut Hill down to Mashpog, and then extending it out to Pawtuxet. The green line is that piece of land just added to the official town evidence. It's over 10,000 acres. It's a huge piece of land. Follows the Pawtuxet River and all of its tributaries and marshes and branches and everything else, going out almost to the Connecticut border. It's almost a quarter of the entire state of Rhode Island. Harris and Arnold basically have stolen about a quarter of the state of Rhode Island and given it to themselves. Now, You guys remember last month's letter? We're talking about the controversies in Pawtuxet. And old Arnold, that's William Arnold. Well, he's involved with another woman, basically adultery, all the other controversies that are going on in Providence, in Pawtuxet. Roger Williams, Arnold, and Harris are constantly fighting with each other. Roger Williams is writing back and forth both to them and to everyone else about how these people are cheating the Narragansett out of land. They're just drawing lines on a map and taking it. This controversy goes on for years and years and years. And William Harris makes 5 trips to England to try and get this stuff settled. The very final trip that he makes in 1680, he's already gotten the king on his side. Rhode Island has sent delegations to try and stop it, but in 1680, Harris makes another trip back to England. This is going to be the final piece of the puzzle, get all the official signatures on everything, come back and crush that guy, Roger Williams, and have their way with the land. Just off the coast of England, the ship that William Harris is on is captured by pirates from Algeria, taken back there, and for the next 3 to 4 years, William Harris is a galley slave. All his paperwork and everything else has been destroyed. He writes letters back to the colonies begging for ransom money. It took them at least 3 years to gather their money for it. When they paid the ransom, Harris is finally released in Algeria, crosses over to Spain, to France, gets back to England, and dies 3 days later. This is what we're dealing with. This extra land. This is what they had before. Just this little wedge of land here. It's about 5 miles on a side. Goes from Pawtuxet to Newtoconkinut Hill to Pawtucket. That's that little wedge over here. And this is what Harris and Arnold and Olney and several others are trying to add to the settlement of Rhode Island. Unscrupulous, land stealing. Roger Williams complains about it for the rest of his life. And there was a historical fiction book a couple of years ago that was out by Mary Lee Settled called I, Roger Williams. And it was written as if it was a fragment of, I think the subtitle is a fragment of an autobiography. It's not an easy book to read because she really writes like Roger Williams. But there's one chapter in it that I really remember as being striking. And it starts off with Roger going, I know I'm supposed to be a good Christian. I know that I'm supposed to love everybody and forgive everybody and everything else. But I hate this William Harris guy. And that basically sums up what this is all about. When you go out there in the world and you see something like this is at the bridge in Pawtuxet. One of the bounds of Providence mentioned in the Indian deed to Roger Williams. It's not mentioned. It's not in the deed. So just because there's a sign about it or it's an official transcript doesn't mean it's true. That's about what I want to say tonight. I just want you to see this original document was lost until the late 1800s. It was finally found again in one of Arnold's books, all folded up and crumpled up. I think it was being used as a seed envelope. But when they found that and compared that to the actual transcription in the official town records, a guy by the name of Sidney Ryder started complaining about the forgeries of the land deals and everything else. And he was writing in 1902. Yeah, he said that these 3 men, William Arnold, Thomas Olney, and William Harris, were engaged at that moment in a huge conspiracy to gain individual private ownership of nearly 1/2 of Rhode Island as it now exists. And Ryder was absolutely adamant that William Harris was the ringleader in all of this. Now, To close up, I want to give you what Roger Williams actually said about William Harris. William Harris, who, being an impudent Morris dancer in Kent, under a cloak of separation, got with myself till his self ends in restless strife, and at last his atheistical denying of heaven and hell made honest souls to fly from him. Now he courts the Baptists, then he kicks them off and flatters the Foxians, or the Quakers. Then the drunkards, which he calls all that are not the former of the two amongst us. Then, knowing the prejudices of other colonies against us, he dares to abuse his majesty and council to bring New England upon us. Roger didn't like the guy. That's where I'm going to wrap this up. I am open for questions.
Well, I have to say that those are some very strong words from Roger Williams. Maybe some of the strongest I've ever read or heard of.
An impudent Morris dancer. I just love that one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the symbol of paganism for the Puritans. It's like any of the wild celebrations that they could possibly have.
Right.
An impudent
We have a question in the chat. Where is the town evidence now?
The town evidence is with the Secretary of State of Rhode Island. It either is on display in the charter room at the State House, or it is back in the files with the Secretary of State. The last I checked, it was on display in the charter room. Big problem is I haven't been there in 2 years, so I don't know what they're actually doing there.
Okay. I see that Trish has her hand raised.
Go
Trish,
for
if
it,
you
Trish.
come on the mic. Oh, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Trish. You're on mute.
Okay.
There we
You
go.
hear me now?
Hi.
There we go.
Much better.
Stupid phone. Sorry. Just wanted to tell you how much we appreciate it from the Williams family, you keeping our ancestor alive and everything you share with us through the letters. Thank you again.
It's my pleasure. I mean, this is a guy that, well, I try to give him as much press as possible. It's somebody that is always relevant, not just in troubled times, but in every time. Pay attention to what he said. Everybody should pay attention to it, because it's not a message of power. It's a message of peace and love, as he says. To live peaceably and lovingly with your neighbors. That's Roger. Sounds like an old hippie thing, but it's actually what he was talking about. Thanks, Trish.
Have a good night. I'm off to the Rangers.
Okay, I see that Beverly Byram has her hand raised. Would you like to come on the mic?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, first I want to echo what Trish said. Thank you so much. I also am a descendant, and I thought I knew a lot about him, but I realized I have learned a whole lot more through this series. And John, I just want to say that I absolutely loved the interview that you did. I cannot deny my heritage because I am so much like him that it's a little scary. His views, I mean, they're my views, and listening to you as him, it was like, wow, that must be where it came from.
It was an absolute joy. I mean, we had the idea of having a fireside chat with Roger last year when we were trying to figure out what we're going to do this year in the winter. It sounded like a wonderful thing. And then the opportunity came up to have Amy Russo from the Providence Journal actually interview Roger by the fireside. And I have to say, I've dealt with reporters before, and sometimes when you give them free rein, and we put no restrictions on her, sometimes when you give a reporter free rein, you end up regretting it. But this was absolutely wonderful. She did an absolutely wonderful job, because she's a newcomer to Rhode Island. She's only been here less than 2 years. And so coming to Rhode Island, she's trying to learn about this place, and it's a great opportunity for her to learn out of her curiosity and her reporterness. And at the same time, it's a great way to get Roger's story out there.
Well, I want to say thank you again, and I hope you will do another series in the not too distant future.
We'll do something. Yep, absolutely. Promise.
Okay, we have one more question that I answered in the chat, but for those of you who haven't seen it, the question was, can we have access to all your letter reading sessions? And most of our sessions are located on our YouTube page. I just put the link to our YouTube page in the chat, so you can go there. We also have 1 minute Roger videos where John is dressed again as Roger Williams and answering questions in 1 minute about Roger. And there are a couple of other videos there that you can view.
And if I can mention, there are about 15 more Roger Williams minute videos that are already in the can, being edited and getting ready to come out. Hey, Sparkle, can we send anybody that was registered for this, can we send them the YouTube link so that they can get everything?
Sure.
Just give them an email and send them the YouTube link, so they don't have to go to the chat or anything else. That makes it easier for everybody. And hope, take a look at our Facebook page. That interview that we did with Amy Russo from the Providence Journal is up on our Facebook page, and it will be on our YouTube page too when we get it transcribed. Yeah, we've got a couple other types of videos that are coming out too. There's going to be some longer Roger Williams videos where he takes on an issue and actually dives into it a little bit more. We're calling them Roger Williams Minute Plus. And we're actually looking at having some live sessions of Ask Roger, where you can come to a place. We'll probably start it at the memorial, but he might be traveling around to different places. You can come with your questions and just ask Roger what your questions are. So we're planning on that. We don't have any dates yet, but as the weather gets better, we hope to have something like that outside. Or if it's a bad day or too hot and steamy a day, we can have it inside someplace. But that'll be a traveling show, and I'll get to do it several times this summer. I'm looking forward to that. So how's that all sound? Everybody like that? Yay. All right. I guess that's about it, unless anybody has any more questions.
I don't see any questions in the chat. Just excellent presentation. Thank you for sharing your work. Thank you.
Excellent.
Oh, yeah. And yes, you can click live transcript in Zoom and open the full transcript. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Excellent.
but when it comes to that, we still have to go through and make sure that the spellings are correct, and that can take time.
Yeah.
Because these words are not modern words.
Yeah, live transcription doesn't always like Native American place names. Musquamaket comes out really bizarre.
Yes. So
cool.
This one is kind of close.
Excellent. Well, thank you, everybody. This has been an absolute joy, and we hope to do it again.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for coming. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Yay.
Okay, well, yay, it's just us two.
Yay.
Yay. So that went really well.
Cool. Did it make sense? The screenshots work? Okay.
Yep.